of that, getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
AMS track draft is now. This is a random draw this week for the AMS track draft schedule. We have chosen
Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting. Welcome back to the American Muscle Series. We're here at Navarra for Season 9, Round 9 of the American Muscle Series in the Ford Mustang FR500S. My name is Randall McGrew. I am joined in commentary and in the production hauler by Joshua Wilkie tonight. Andrew, who's that? Andre Grandbouche, here in spirit. He has the night off. Just me and you, Josh. We raced here last season. It was a pretty hectic start to the race. It was very early in the season. People were still trying to figure it out. We're much later in the season this year. It's a tricky track. What do you think we're going to see tonight?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Thanks, Randall. Yeah, it's, I think you kind of nailed it there, too. We were all sort of getting used to this place last season, myself included. Was able to come here a couple times, I guess, in the last couple seasons here. But now everybody's been here a few times. There should be a little bit of track knowledge going around. So I'm expecting to see a little bit less fighting the track, a little more fighting each other. But if I remember correctly, we had a pretty good race here last time, too. So I'm expecting the same thing. Pretty difficult track out there, though, for sure.
Yeah, lots of really tight corners, a very, very tricky beginning to the lap. And we've been catching a lot of these drivers off in the practice session. We are currently still in practice. Most of these times on the leaderboard were set very early in the session. They've remained pretty static since then. About 30 seconds left in practice. We had some technical difficulties here getting the session running, but they are underway. They'll be starting qualifying here soon. But until then, we have some points to go through. We'll start, as always, in the Pro Division, where though he was absent last week, Kevin Parrish continues to lead the way. These points do include the 2 drop weeks, so that's why things may not be shaking out exactly as you expected them to have shaken out after that wet race last week. Kevin Parrish leading the way with 291 points. Luis Enriquez in second place with 283. Luke Sudengay there in third place with 269 points. Jay Bass not too far away from getting his step, getting on that bottom step of the podium in the Pro Division. Then we'll jump over to the Challenger Division, where we will see another race heating up there. Dan Ott leading the way with 296 points over Matt Thompson with 269, Mark Cohn with 264 points, and then sitting there in fourth place, Ryan Campbell with 262 points, Levi Powell with 260 in fifth. So that third and second steps of the podium are very much up for grabs. Dan kind of running away with it right now, but there's still lots of racing to go. Plenty of chances for that gap to go away. And then jumping over to the much smaller but always exciting amateur division, we have Freddie Weaver sitting on 302 points, Kevin Berg in second place with 282 points, Joe Sacchetti with 213 points. So not the most exciting race in the amateur division, but it's also the one that's prone to the biggest swings in fortune. So keep your eye very much on those red number panels tonight, because one good finish could really shake up that amateur division leaderboard completely. So it is by no means set in stone. The cars are qualifying now. It looks like we are having some technical issues with the overlays. We're going to try to get those sorted out as we're going to jump to the Challenger division leader, Dan Ott. He is out on his out lap right now. So it is a rather long lap around here, about a minute, just north of a minute 50, so closer to 2 minutes. So it takes them a minute to make their way around here, and then they'll get started on their flying lap. They do have 10 minutes to set 3 flying laps, so they will have plenty of time to get their laps in. We see him making his way on his out lap now, trying to get some heat in those tires. And boy, Josh, let me tell you, watching these guys in practice, they are going to be busy even if they're by themselves. Add in a bunch of traffic, and this could be a wild night for some of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. We were talking on the run-up a little bit just how difficult this track really can be, and it is. It's a difficult one. This is one you have to practice. It's have to take some time and learn exactly how those corners are going to work. First section of this track, I think it probably took me 2 solid hours just to get that first corner down, that first complex of corners down. You want to take it so many different ways, and there's really only one way that it's going to work, and I'm sure we are going to see a driver or two tonight try to make a pass into there, and it's not going to work out for them. It looks so inviting up the inside there sometimes, and it just almost never works out, Randall.
And that's exactly what happened here to championship points leader last season, Jack Sanchez. He went for a gap that was quickly closing, and it ended up being 3 wide. There was a spin, and he ended up receiving a black flag for that, which is, I mean, in his place, like, the door looked wide open, and it's just one of those the geography of that opening complex is so inviting to send it right up the inside there, and it disappears so quickly. And he came from quite a ways back and ended up earning the ire of the stewards. But it was not very far away from being a clean move. We're going to jump on with Fabian Zweyer now as he's making his way to this tricky first complex. That first corner is going to be easily flat, and you're going to try to straighten it out for the second one. And it just keeps getting tighter. Turn 3, another right-hander, even tighter. going to bring all the way down to second gear and try to get that car pointed in the right direction. Then we have a complex of left-handers coming up, a very, very quick turn forward, easily flat out, and then into this tricky turn 5 and 6 where the corner just keeps turning. It just keeps turning and keeps getting tighter and tighter, and you're having a trail brake to try to keep that front end turning without upsetting that rear end, and then using all this curb here on the right-hander of turn 7 that follows, and then a tight turn 8 that leads onto a decently sized straightaway. You might see a couple overtaking opportunities here as they approach turn 9. They're going to be braking very late past the 100-meter board onto that curbing, trying to open up the corner as much as possible for a very tight turn 9 that's going to lead them into an easily flat turn 10. They're going to keep the car over to the right and then open up what I like to call the hammerhead section of the track. The turn 11 here is a 90-degree left-hander, maybe a little bit more than 90, and then a little bit more than 90 for turn 12 to the left as well, which leads into yet another very tight right-hander in the form of turn 13. So a lot of these drivers are going to be struggling with keeping that rear end planted as they try to get onto the throttle as early as possible. Turn 14 is a left-hander, easily flat out. You want to keep the car to the left and try to get a nice late apex here on turn 15, the final corner. Get to that throttle as early as you can. Get the car pointed in the right direction and scream off down towards the line to set your flying lap. We're going to see what this does here for Fabian Zweyer, one of the fastest drivers in the practice session. We'll see him set his initial lap time, and there's that going to put him up in P2, just less than a tenth behind Luis Enriquez, who's currently sitting on provisional pole. So an exciting lap, a long lap, very, very busy for these drivers. Fabian, I can tell you, was the fastest in Sector 3. This track does have 4 sectors. Sector 1, the fastest overall was Luis Enriquez. Sector 2, Kevin Parrish, but he ended up invalidating his lap time, so he didn't get to set a lap. Sector 3 was Fabian Zweyer. Sector 4 so far belongs to Super Dave Moore. So seeing a nice variety of drivers here being really, really fast. Joshua, I think we might see some drivers playing spoiler tonight.
Yeah, it looks like there's definitely some hands out there around this track now, probably a little faster. I bet you if we were to look at lap times from last time we were here, they have dropped a little bit for sure, and that was a pretty good lap from Zweyer we were on board with there. He hit his marks pretty well. That first corner, just to bring it back there about trying to pass on the inside, you're 100% right. It's just so inviting on the inside there, and it so looks like it's going to work. But you sort of have to treat that triple set of corners there almost like one big corner, and Fabian did a really good job to get all the way out to the curb on that first section of it, and then you really just need to straighten out the car and get on the clappers as hard as you can towards that other apex so you can try to slow down and make that last right-hander, which is by far the hardest part here as we're seeing him go through kind of the first section here. Dave Moore out to that curb, didn't quite touch it. The farther you can get out to that curb, if you can make it happen, the less that's going to happen on exit right there. But it's so difficult to get out to that curb and keep the rear end behind you. So yeah, I'm expecting to see that one definitely work the drivers. And you're right, it's a pretty busy lap out there, isn't it? You've got a lot of stuff to think about. Some tracks, it's 1 or 2 corners you're thinking about the whole lap. This one's got 2 or 3 you're thinking about the whole lap, and that definitely pulls on your mental energy a little bit for sure.
Fabian Zweyer jumping up to the provisional pole, displacing Kevin Parrish, who was up there for a good minute or so with a 154.9. That's going to put Fabian Zweyer up there with a 154.870. We have 2 drivers now who've broken through the 155 barrier. Luis Enriquez was able to improve, but is still going to be sitting in a 3rd position, was not able to improve enough to improve his position. This is one of those laps where if you watch the car and the lap looks very boring and the car looks very stable, that it's probably going to be a very fast lap. If the lap looks exciting, it's definitely exciting to watch, but it's not going to be the fast way around this track. As we saw Matt Thompson there getting a lot of sliding out of the rear end, a lot of opposite lock to keep that car wrangled. That's going to have cost him a couple tenths of a second just in that one corner alone, and maybe in the following one as well, as he makes the tires angry. You see a little bit of opposite lock there, gets a little too much of that curve, but he's going to be coming down to the start finish line. We'll see if he's able to improve his position, currently on the provisional pole for the Challenger division in 13th overall, and watching now to see, and no, he was not able to improve, and I suspect one of those big slides caught him. But one person that was able to improve, Luis Enriquez, up to the pole with a 154.856. He saved the best lap for last. So we'll start seeing some of these other times trickle in. I don't know that that anybody else is going to be able to improve. Fabian Zweyer looks like he's about the only one still on his third lap that has a chance to challenge here as we watch Freddie Weaver practice this tricky pit entry one time before he parks it. This is another thing that can really catch people out, is that pit entry. You really need to attack it, but it is very, very tricky. And if you haven't practiced it, it could easily reach out and bite you. Ed Santinelli sitting down in 18th position. He is still on his third flying lap, but he looks like he's going rather slowly, so I think he may have abandoned already. Fabian Zweyer has completed his last lap, was not able to improve his position. It looks like he'll be starting second place unless Taylor Blant has anything to say about this. And actually, it looks like Taylor has also completed all of his laps. Taylor was very fast in practice and led most of the practice session, if not the entire time. So seeing him down in sixth place is a little bit of a shock. But it looks like this is one of those tracks that's really going to show the division separations very well. We have the top 11 are all pros, and then we have a big sea of challengers with a couple pros sprinkled in here and there, and then all of the amateurs are down at near the bottom of the leaderboard. So that just goes to show you how technically difficult this track is, that it's really going to show the difference in skill levels.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and you nailed it earlier. This place is all about kind of trying to get that entry figured out and not too worry about, not worry too much about the mid corner, and trying to hustle the car too much around here just makes you lose time, like you said perfectly there. If the car looks stable and kind of slow, you're probably going fast around here. You just need to hit those marks and try not to take too much curb, try not to rush those entries and so on, and you'll have a much better lap around here. So yeah, I think there's probably a pretty big split between classes because of that.
And we're just waiting for the official grid standings to come in before we go through it, but it looks like Luis Henriquez was indeed able to secure that pole position with a 154.856, so he will start front and off to the left, not front and center, off to the left. Fabian Zweyer starting in P2. Kevin Parrish, welcome back to him. He had to miss it last week, is going to be rolling off P3, less than a 10th off the pole time. So the top three under a blanket variably in qualifying. Luke Sudengay is going to roll off in fourth. Jeff Schnackle in fifth place. And despite being the fastest in practice, Taylor Blant is going to roll off in P6. David Finch starting in P7. Dave Moore going to start in P8. Andrew Bailing starting in P9. Neil Kemp is going to round out the top 10.
Nope, and it advanced on me there, didn't it? And then in P11 we have Eben Hupchak. In P12 we have Ryan Campbell. Actually expecting some stuff out of him today. He's been moving pretty quick these days. Matt Malone down in 13th, a little out of position there, so we expect to see him move forward probably. Mark Cohn in 14th. In 15th, we have Matt Thompson. In 16th, we have Levi Powell. In 17th, Charlie Hosey. In 18th, we have Ed Santinelli. 19th, Daniel Gabalden. And in 20th, we have Dan Ott.
Chuck Labano, Meyer down in 21st position. I'm going to guess that he's not a big fan of this place. And you know who else is probably not a big fan of this place? Jay Bass down in 22nd place. Aaron, that face spray, is going to roll off in 23rd. Next to him, Jeff Andrus. 25th is going to be Brandon Smith. 26th, Matthew Guzinda. 27th is your amateur division pole sitter in the form of Freddie Weaver. Starting next to him will be Dave Blair, and Mike Deacon going to roll off at 29th. 30th will be Joe Sacchetti. And then rounding out the rest of the field, 37 cars here tonight, or actually looks like 36 taking to the grid. 31st, Scott Brooks. 32nd, John Casey. Jay Little, 33rd. Tom Wint in 34th. Brandon Carl in 35th. Mark Royce in 36th. And Kevin Buckles is showing as qualifying in 37th, but I do not see him in the session, nor do I see him taking to the grid yet. So I suspect that he will not be starting this race, but if he does, he will be starting in the last position overall. Well, we have about 40 seconds left until the green flag. What's your strategy here for the attack in the start, Josh?
Yeah, this is a difficult one, like we were saying. This start's going to be a little frenetic, especially with the stop start down into that very, very difficult T1 here. It is going to be about surviving that T1, hopefully gaining a couple positions. If you can be sneaky about it, it's a real good spot to gain some, but it's going to be a real good spot to lose some too, Randall. So that would be my strat. Just try to keep your nose clean on this first lap, especially into T1.
40 minutes of action here for the Mustangs. 36 of them are going to take to the grid. 40 minutes at Navarra, 15 corners, 2.44 miles. Who will come out on top? There's only one way to find out. We're going to be watching for that green flag. Luis Enriquez will lead them down to turn 1. Will he be able to retain the lead? Any moment now that we'll see the green flag in the air from Barney. And they are underway, and it looks like a bit of wheel spin there out of, is that, it looks like, no, it was not Taylor Bland. Whoever started there in P3, Kevin Parrish with a bit of wheel spin there is going to drop a handful of positions. And they're going to be going side by side into turn 1. Fabian Zweyer up the inside of Luis Enriquez. And so far through turn 2, he's got the position established. Can he retain it here through turn 3? So far, so good. And Fabian Zweyer is going to have the lead coming out of that first complex. Ooh, a little bit of a bump and grind there. Saw one driver getting loose, but they all keep it pointed in the right direction. So far, looking very clean here on the start as they make their way down to turn number 5 for the first time. This long sweeping left-hander, turn 5, now forming turn 6, and they're still trying to get single file as Luke Sudengay's caught there on the outside of Taylor Ballant, and he's going to keep fighting. Now he's on the inside, going to be making a move for that 4th position. I don't know if he's going to be able to get there. I know he's going to fall into line behind Taylor. Fabian Zweyer continues to lead the way here, and we got the gaggle now making their way through turn number 8 and onto the short straightaway. This would be a good chance for everybody to try to get single file, or maybe to try to get that move finally complete if you've been stuck side by side for a while. We still see them 2x2 here in the midfield, not quite working it out yet, as we're going to see Levi Powell is going to get around Dan Ott there, it looks like. Yes, Dan Ott is going to give it up to Levi Powell, and then we have Matt Malone, and we have Jay Baston and Ed Sancinelli still side by side as they make their way into turn 11. Sancinelli going to have the preferred line. They're getting really crazy up ahead of him.
Yeah, some great racing here so far. I don't think we've really lost anybody. Don't want to jinx it too far yet, but we're 3 wide, we're 2 wide. We're mostly kind of single file here as we're seeing everybody kind of trying to figure it out. This second portion of the lap really does promote passing. There's quite a bit of breaks to be had. There's as we see somebody
Malone's
getting
gonna
body
get tagged.
checked. Oh, Malone, go ahead.
I think they were 3 wide and weren't quite aware of it. Somebody got into another person and ping-ponged him over into Matt Malone. Oof. Matt Malone had to evade into the pit entry. Hopefully he doesn't pick up any sort of penalty for running into the pit entry there like that. And I'm seeing in the race chat that Joe Sacchetti had to retire the car after the steering wheel disconnected and would not come back. And that looks like up ahead. Is that Mark Royce possibly? No, it wasn't Mark Royce.
I think it might have been
It was
Dan
an orange
Ott.
car.
It looks like a bit of
Dan
pinball
Ott
happening there, perhaps.
Yes. Oh, Chuck Labano. It looks like a little bit of netcode contact there with Labano and Matt Malone. As we see the car lurch like that, normally that's an indication of netcode, because there was plenty of room between them from that angle, it appeared. So we see Taylor Ballant making a move here on Jeff Schnackle to work his way up on to the podium. He's going to be on the outside here. They're bumping and then grinding a little bit. Schnackle's going to have the preferred line here, but it looks like, he's going to get a little bit oversteer there and have to catch the car, and that's going to give the spot to Ballant. And now Schnackle going to be under pressure from Sudengay, and it looks like he's got Kevin Parrish behind him popping out to maybe try to push him along to try to get the spot away from Sudengay, who's going to break very deep to try to keep that spot. And it's not going to work for him to keep that spot from Schnackle, and he's also going to give it up to Kevin Parrish. So that's something that Luke will be putting into his back pocket, so that if he knows he comes up against that situation later in the race, he knows that he can't outbrake somebody like that going on the outside.
Yeah, this track has a few things like that, to be honest. You know, we were mentioning T1, and there's a few other spots here that are just basically pitfalls if you fall into them, if you try to pass somebody in certain places, just like any track, but this one seems to have even more so. If you kind of overextend yourself a bit, it really bites back, and that's going to swing back. And as he gets on the brakes as hard as he can there, that was very close to the back of, I believe that's Jeff Schnackle in front there. So he's pushing it for everything he's got there. That's one of the corners, you really don't want to hustle the entry to, but you can see him kind of losing a bit of time now, or he probably would have been able to drag race him here and maybe make a look up the inside. Not going to be able to do it now, but yeah, difficult track out there for sure. And it looks like we're all pretty clean out here so far. Some great racing.
Yeah, we'll start to see this field maybe stretch out a little bit here, start to see some group swarmers. I see some wheel smoke ahead from the top three, and Schnackle's going to run a little bit deep, so maybe that was actually out of him. Got the braking just a little bit wrong here. Is going to fall into the clutches of Kevin Parrish, who's going to be fighting here on the outside through this long sweeping section of turn 5 and 6, but it looks like he's going to have it covered, yes, as he makes his way over to the apex. Schnackle is really struggling here in the early stages of this race. Seemed like once he got little bit loose, he really overheated the tires and has had trouble getting them back into a good working temperature, and has been suffering ever since then and dropping a couple positions per lap. We are now on a lap number 3 of what looks to be a 21 lap race. Currently Super Dave Moore with the fastest lap of the race. Fabian Zweyer continues to lead the way overall and in the pro division. Ryan Campbell leads the way in the challenger division, and we have to go all the way back to 27th place to see Mr. Freddie Weaver in the amateur division leading the way back there. And it looks like everybody's pretty much gotten into single file here. I think we're going to start seeing the everybody just trying to click off laps, trying to get into that pit cycle, get their pit stop done, and maybe then we'll start seeing a bit more fighting. But right now everybody's just kind of in survival mode. Nobody wants to fall victim to attrition. So far really only one driver suffering from attrition, and that was due to a hardware failure. And if I look here, it looks like right now, Dan Ott is the biggest mover in the field, up 5 positions from where he started. Back in 15th place, started in 20th position. And the biggest loser so far, other than Joe Sacchetti, looks to be Daniel Gabaldon, who's down 5 spots from where he started. So now no big losers, no big gainers yet so far. So it's been pretty static. It's not static for Charlie Hosey. To see him there in the background of the shot, getting it wrong, coming out of the last corner, spinning around. Not sure if he had any help here, but we're going to have a battle here between Taylor Boulant and Luis Henriquez. And Henriquez might be falling victim here to Kevin Parrish as well, and he absolutely will. Over the course of 3 corners, going to lose 2 spots, fall back in the line in front of Luke Studengay. Taylor Blount up to second, Kevin Parrish up to third. Fabian Zweyer is running away with this a little bit now. That gap is nearly 2 seconds. Sitting at about 1.5 to 2 seconds, fluctuating every corner right now. But all this fighting here for second and third is really working in his favor as he's trying to pull away from the rest of these leaders.
Yeah, for sure. This is the kind of track where that's going to happen too. You know, like I was saying, or like we were saying on the run-up and in the show here, that first corner is a bit of a difficult one to pass, but people like to try it a lot, and that's going to slow you down. And then the second half of the track, there's just so many opportunities to try to sneak up the inside of somebody that it's hard not to give it a shot. And it looks like now you're seeing them kind of starting to single file out a little bit. They've noticed, okay, we're gonna lose this guy if we don't start kind of playing ball with each other here. But we shall see how it works out in the end. You definitely lose a lot of time getting side by side in these corners around here, though, and Fabian Zweyer will really monopolize on that if he can. We'll see how the pit stop strategy works out. There might be a bit of strategy to be had there as well, see if you can jump some traffic and get some free air. But yeah, it's gonna all to play for out there this early in the race for sure still.
So a bit of a correction for me. I am fake news. That was not Charlie Hosey spinning in the background of that shot we saw at the end of last lap. That was in fact Levi Powell. And if I take a look at the stewarding chat, I am seeing that there is an investigation. And there is the findings. We did have an incident being investigated, and Tom Wendt is going to receive a drive-through penalty for an incident involving him, Mark Royce, and maybe Levi Powell. Not sure about that, but Tom Wendt is receiving the black flag. We'll have to serve a drive-through penalty. We're going to take a look and see what exactly transpired here and see if we can figure out what was going on. As we see Levi Powell, they're spinning by himself. That's completely inconclusive. And it looks like that was by himself. That was completely by himself. So that was not with the aid of anybody else. I'm not sure what happened between Tom Wendt and Mark Royce, but it was enough. It was enough it was enough for the steward to deem that Tom Wendt was at fault and to issue a penalty. If we can find anything more about that, we will. This might be it. We're going to see Mark Royce. There's Tom Wendt behind him, and they're making their way down to turn 9, and it looks like
there it is.
There's a bit of a checkup out of Royce and maybe not enough braking out of Tom Wendt, and it sends Royce around. It doesn't look like Royce got much damage on that car, just lost a handful of seconds there, but I bet the front end of that car for Tom Wendt is nice and caved in right about now. Saw there briefly, Luis Enriquez has a bit of a gap in front of him, so maybe he's struggling a little bit. We got some battles going on here in the midfield. This is Matthew Gazinda and Dave Blair. Dave Blair's going to have the preferred position here going into turn 9, but Gazinda's going to have the momentum there on the outside as he's going to hang pretty tough. But it looks like Blair's going to have the good run through turn 10, and now Gazinda is going to have the preferred line going into turn 11, and it looks like Blair's playing it very cautiously. I will say Dave Blair is the perennial winner for the Clean Driver Award, so I think he maybe is more worried about securing those funds for the Clean Driver Award than he is if maybe for trying to win his division, as he's going to be taking the form of water and giving what the traffic gives him.
That's a good analogy there. And yeah, that's not an easy one to win, honestly. That might be harder than some championships to win to get a Clean Driver Award, but always happy to see somebody out there trying to drive as clean as possible. And that looks like what's happening here as we get a little bit of a touch there, maybe actually from the 296 on our Clean Driver Award winner there. Able to kind of sneak away from that one. Looks like he backed out of it there like he should as well. But they are going to go side by side here in the T1, so let's see exactly how this works out. Doesn't usually work out on the inside here, but he's going to give it a try. If you can wedge that outside line and really push somebody wide, it may work for you. Yeah, and it looks like it's not going to work for him. Had to get on the brakes a little bit harder to make that corner happen. And then unfortunately asking all of it on that exit again. Unfortunate spin.
Yeah, I think he was just getting a little bit loose at just the wrong time. There was Jay Little there right behind him, and as soon as he got loose, he was not accelerating, and Jay was able to touch him, and it just took a touch to send him around. We're going to get another look at that as we see Dave Blair on the inside. Here's Jay Little on the inside of Scott Brooks. They're going to try to make their way. This is the trickiest part of the track. Yeah, and there's a big checkup out of Blair, and then he starts to get loose. Yeah, and that was a very odd reaction out of the car. So I suspect there was some net code possibly involved as well, because that was very a very uncharacteristic spin. It looked like maybe Spain is importing some of those invisible wombats from Australia, and maybe struck Dave Blair's car there to start that incident. As we're going to jump up here to Neil Kemp and Andrew Bailing duking it out here for 11th position. It looks like Neil Kemp is going to retain that spot away from Bailing for now, but they're making their way through turn 15 up to one of the best passing opportunities. Who gets the better run out of the final corner could decide this one. I want to talk about that lead gap, though. Fabian Zweyer was ahead by 1.5 seconds, close to 2 seconds. That has disappeared. Taylor Plant has closed down that gap. He is now easily within striking distance, and right there on his rear bumper is Kevin Parrish, your points leader. So this race far from over. They are kind of leaving behind the rest of the leaders, Luke Sudengay, Schnackle, and Luis Henriquez. Henriquez has given up a couple more spots since we last saw him, so he's struggling here in the middle part of the race. We are serving lap 7, so we're about 1/3 of the way through the race, and this is really where you're going to start feeling it if you're abusing the tires too much. And I have a feeling that some of these drivers might be feeling that exact thing. I know we've talked about it with Schnackle already, and maybe Luis Henriquez feeling the same thing as he's falling back into the clutches of Evan Hupchak and David Finch. Two drivers we haven't talked about a lot here this season are in a prime position to have a really strong finish if they can manage their tires and make their way around some of these drivers that are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just noticing here, it looks like we have a kind of maybe an uncharacteristic pack of cars here racing each other. So that's another thing to think about as well, is a lot of the time, you know, in a season, you don't find yourself beside certain drivers, and then every once in a while you do, and things kind of change a little bit. You have to learn that the way that person drives. Sometimes, you know, they kind of figure, hey, I'm faster than you. You're not supposed to be in front of me, and they drive you a little bit differently. That kind of thing happens here. It does look like everybody's being very respectful of each other, but we do have some players here kind of fighting with some drivers that maybe they wouldn't usually be fighting with, which is great watching for us here. But I think anything can happen in this kind of, what would you call it, not mid-pack, but like front mid-pack that seems to have kind of happened to us here. And it should be some exciting racing in here. Looks like perhaps Jeff Schnackle's actually starting to pull away from Enriquez as well. He's struggling out there a bit today. You might be right about those tires.
Yeah, I think maybe Schnackle's getting a handle on it, and Henriquez feeling the pressure from Hubchak might be having to play a little bit more defensive of a game here. I'm watching the stewarding chat. We have another incident under investigation. I was going to talk about it earlier, then promptly forgot. Aaron Bray, we did see him briefly with a meatball flag, and then he pulled it into the pits and has not rejoined the race as of yet, so maybe there was an incident there, but it looks like a lap 5 incident involving Jeff Andrus, Daniel Gabaldon, and Aaron Bray, and I'm trying to see if we don't have a ruling on it yet, so it is currently being investigated. So there has been a couple things going on out there on track while we talked about these leaders, as it often does. Fabian Zweyer continues to lead the way over Taylor Blant, Kevin Parrish, Luke Sudengate, 4 seconds back from that lead trio. He's going to try to close that gap up and also try to pull away from Schnackle at the same time. But these three are on a program of their own. They have figured something out here and are on the move, especially that Taylor Blant. He is up 4 spots from where he qualified. Fabian Zweyer up 1 spot. Kevin Parrish in third, right where he started. So after having a bad start, had to get a couple spots back to find himself still in contention for this race win. And I think these guys are probably going to play it pretty tame. I don't know. Taylor Blant is pretty aggressive. He might try to go for that lead if he thinks he's that much faster. But right now, they're pulling a pretty big gap on the rest of the field. They might be happy sitting in this order for a little bit.
Yeah, it does look like, shortly right after we mentioned it there, that they did decide to start kind of playing ball with each other here instead of trying to wedge each other in every corner and pull away. They would have had a much, much bigger problem on their hands pretty soon if they didn't do that. But this can all change pretty quickly as well. Like you said, there's some aggressive drivers out there. We know Kevin Parrish, he has qualified well a few times, but he races much better than he qualifies. And it looks like Taylor Blant as well is kind of mirroring that today with the 4 places up in the beginning there. Not an easy one to do around here. Like I said, though, this is a track where you can monopolize on mistakes. And if you can kind of be out there not making mistakes, like you said in the run-up there, drive smooth and try not to make those mistakes, people are just going to kind of fall to the wayside a little bit as well. And it looks like that's what our lead pack's doing here. You're seeing not a whole lot of dramaticism out of their driving here, not a lot of wiggly tails or charging entries or anything like that. Everybody's playing ball pretty good, and that's how you're going to get ahead, as we see Zweyer actually just lose the rear there a bit.
Kevin Parrish is going to have a moment too. So we focus on these guys just for a little bit, and the cracks start to show. I'm going to tell you, though, I would keep my money pretty safely there on that car in third place. Kevin Parrish, he is one of that caliber of driver when I was still driving in this series that I did not like to see in my rearview mirror. He is a stone cold killer. He's not always the most aggressive, but when he decides to be aggressive, he is decisively aggressive, and he knows how to get moves done, and he's not afraid to go for it when it counts. As we saw a couple weeks ago in Interlagos with that absolutely bonzo move on the outside on Luis Enriquez to win that race and take the lead on the last lap in a spot on the track you wouldn't really expect to be going for a pass. And he's sitting here in third place, just where he was sitting, mind you, at Interlagos on the last lap. He was in third place and got both of those spots on that last lap.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there for sure. He's out there. He's thinking. He's thinking in the cockpit. He's making sure he makes moves that stick and that are going to work and aren't going to disrespect his competitors or cause an accident or anything like that. And we've seen him do that, throughout a bunch of the races he's been in here. He's really moved right from the first race to now, has really shown that he's one of the fastest drivers out there pretty much right away. I would imagine that's what he's doing right now, too, as Fabian Zweyer taking a little bit of a look there. I think he's just kind of playing with the rolling speed there to see how much he can stay in front of him, how much he can ask of that complex of corners there, and they're all kind of doing the same thing. It does, if I'm not mistaken here, I have to keep a better eye on it, but it kind of looks like maybe Sudengate made a little bit of time up on this front pack here, and I would imagine it's because of those little mistakes that I'm sure we'll continue to see, but I would imagine he's biding his time here till the end of the race, or maybe till pit stop to make his move. There's really no need to force the issue at the moment for Kevin Parrish.
Absolutely. We saw that's the game that Blant played. He waited until there was a mistake and then just took advantage of it. And you're absolutely right. That gap was up to about 4.5, almost approaching 5 seconds before those shenanigans with the leader started. And they got it sorted out very quickly, but not before Sudengate was able to get about half a second of that gap back, as we see Evan Hubchak go really wide there in the background of the shot. And he's going to be falling victim to Super Dave Moore, who's going to be pushing Luis Enriquez down to turn 9. Super Dave's going to have the inside here for turn 9 and for turn 10, and it looks like he will get that spot as Hubchak runs a little bit wide there again. He's going to have to be going defensive against David Finch. He's going to stick it back up the inside there of Dave Moore. Dave had to check up a little bit for Luis Enriquez, so these guys are still scrapping it out. Luis Enriquez playing a bit of the cork in the bottle, which is not a usual role for him. That's normally not what you see him doing. Normally you see him charging away and trying to get the lead of these races. He's struggling here today. I suspect that Luis is running on a single monitor. We see a couple drivers there dipping into the pit lane, and Kevin Parrish has actually gone into the pit lane as well, it looks like. So Andrew Baling and Matt Malone there pulled off into the pit lane. Kevin Parrish is going to go with an alternate strategy there. Not going to get the slipstream. Slipstream not a huge thing at this track, but that front straightaway is a long one, so it can make a difference. But is it the difference? I am not sure. Kevin Parrish, the first of the leaders to come into pit lane. We'll keep an eye on his pit stop time. Currently sitting stationary. He's cresting 17, 18 seconds, so he's possibly picked up a penalty here. No. So yeah, he's been stuck for quite a long time. Kevin Parrish, Matt Malone both underway here. Andrew Baling and Matt Malone both underway here. It looks like Kevin Parrish maybe was rolling there. No, he is still stationary. So he definitely picked up an unsafe entry or a speeding on a pit entry, and that is going to ruin his race. And I know he is kicking himself over there. He's already used, well, presumably used one of his drop weeks in that spin that he had in the first race of the season. Then he had to miss last week. He's going to be clutching at straws here. If he has another bad finish, this penalty could have huge championship implications.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. It has show implications here too, because we were definitely going to see some fireworks out of this top three as well, and unfortunately that's going to take him right out of it. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You know, pit stop stuff is definitely the bane of my existence. I've lost so many races in the pit. It's so easy to overspeed or forget to uncheck something, or simply under or overfuel your car. It really is something that you know, it's just another part of the game that you have to have kind of nailed down. It's really easy to not get it. And this pit entrance that we did actually kind of only mention briefly, it's sort of like a little mini go-kart track that you kind of have to charge, and it's really easy to make a mistake. I'm actually going to go back here and see if I can't find his pit entrance, and maybe we can find out exactly if he did cut the pit entrance here. And he did. He cut the pit entrance on entry, and that's going to be what it is right there. So he went straight across the solid line there to get into pit, and that's going to do it for him.
That could be it. It doesn't look like he was coming in with a head of steam either, because of that hairpin corner that leads into the pit lane. Will do a good job of getting you slowed down. So it has to be that he cut in across that white line. And that's one of the unfortunate things about iRacing is sometimes those pit entry lines, and yeah, that was a big cut. Sometimes these pit entries are not strongly enforced. Like if you do that at Nürburgring, you're just fine. Mm-hmm. But if you do that here, or if you do that at Brands Hatch, that's a penalty every time. So if you don't practice it in the practice session to see what gives you a black flag and what doesn't, that could reach out and bite you easily. And it looks like it got Kevin Parrish here tonight. We're going to see Daniel Gabaldon and Scott Brooks duking it out going into turn one. And here comes Levi Powell. He's going to get around Scott Brooks as well. We saw him spinning out earlier in the race on his own, and he's trying to recover some spots as we jump back to the leaders. Now, do these two realize that Kevin has gotten the black flag? I didn't see anybody come across the radio. So these two might not know that Kevin has the black flag and might still be racing as if they're racing against Kevin and trying to keep it tame. So that may or may not work out in their favor. But right now, they could be in the dark about the situation and not know that right now this is a two-horse race, and we have to look really far back, 6 seconds back, in fact, to see Luke Studengay. So these two have figured out something that the rest of the field have not figured out, and they are absolutely pulling away. Luis Enriquez still leading this third group right now in 5th place overall. He's going to have a big slide, and I think he's just going to drive it into the pits from there. The car saying, nope, we're pitting this lap, bud.
Yeah, that was definitely the styliest pit entrance we will see tonight, I think, for sure. I'm not sure if that was on purpose or he's just like, well, I guess I'm headed that way, so I'll do it. But either way, that was a really good pit entrance there. He's going to relieve some pressure there for those other drivers and himself. Come get a pit, and we'll see where he ends up in the field here. It's a good point you mentioned about Kevin Parrish and the leaders there as well. They're not really sure maybe if he's pit yet, and having a good kind of sight picture of your race is very important. And that's another thing that you know, it's great to have a spotter or something. If you don't know the information, then well, you just can't react to things you don't know. And if you're out there racing thinking you have to beat Kevin Parrish and you make a mistake, you feel pretty silly about it later on. But it looks like they're racing at a pretty good pace here. They're not slowing each other down too much, although it did look like Fabian took a little bite there and made a tiny bit of a mistake on the Megabike car. But Yeah, I would imagine that they don't know, and they're going to find out pretty soon here, though. They're going to see him on track. I think they'll see him coming out in the wrong spot, and they'll know. But it looks like these two are going to be racing to the end with each other, and they're still pulling a gap on Sudengay there and on Schnackle in fourth.
Yeah, it's
Sudengay, sorry, third.
These two are the class of the field so far today. We've had a really big variety of pit strategies here tonight. We are well past halfway now. It feels like we just got started. We have 15 and a half minutes left in this race. Currently serving lap 13 of what looks to be a 21-lap race as we follow Daniel Gabaldon out of the pit lane. Right now I'm looking at the pit times. We're ranging anywhere from 10 to 13 seconds right now, and Andrew Bailing with the fastest pit time out of everybody that's come in so far with a 10.67. So nobody really standing out as having an exceptionally fast pit stop. Oh, is it Daniel Baldwin actually had it with a 10.57 there. He just came out of the pit lane. But a nice variety of pit strategies. We haven't seen any big groups come in at once, and I suspect that the top 10 is probably just going to try to stretch this out as much as possible, as Luis Enriquez has had something happen. He is down now in what looks to be 15th position, back with Freddie Weaver and Brandon Smith. Freddie Weaver's on the move. He's up 13 spots from where he started, but something definitely went wrong for Luis. And now I can clearly remember that he pit. That's what happened to Luis Enriquez. Duh.
Yeah, I'm wondering where he came out here. So we did lose the time in the pit, but I'm wondering. It looks like, unfortunately, when you go in the pit like this, you're usually trying to relieve some pressure. You want to get away. You want to get some free air. And it looks like he just came out right back into another pack of cars again that he's had to deal with. He's made his way by. I believe that's McCone. Is that right? Is that Mark Cohn in front of him there? I think he got in front of him already, but that's going to slow him down a bit. So we'll expect maybe to see him right in the middle of that pack when they pit. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
That was Brandon Smith in front of him, who is now coming to the pit lane. So is Matthew Gazinda. We're seeing a couple more. No big groups still. Just ones and twos coming in at a time. We see Super Dave Moore. He's coming to the pit lane. He takes a lot of that curb, and he's back fighting with Luis Enriquez now. He was behind Luis at the start of this pit cycle, and he is back. He is up in front of Luis. So one spot at least given up by Luis, gained by Dave Moore. So Super Dave on the move. He's down in 14th spot right now, but we are in the middle of the pit cycle. So this will all shake out, and we'll see where he's actually at. Kevin Parrish now holds the fastest lap with a 1:54.728. Taylor Blant continues to lead the way. He and Fabian Zweyer pulled way far away. But Taylor Blant leads overall and in the Pro Division. Ryan Campbell, currently sitting in 7th place overall, leads the way in the Challenger Division. And Freddie Weaver having himself one heck of a race so far, up 14 spots. In 13th place overall, and on the amateur division, top step of the podium right now, and he's got a bunch of cars between him and Scott Brooks, Brandon Carl, and John Casey. So this could be a big day for the amateur division as we watch Ryan Campbell attack this pit entry, and it is so tight coming in there. You really need to make good on it. Dave Finch, Ryan Campbell, Matt Thompson, all three in the pit lane. This is one of the bigger groups. We've seen three cars come in a couple times. Nothing really bigger than that. They're going to be running out of time to pit. So we're starting to see everybody. The top 8 has not yet pit. Top 9 has not yet pit. And then we have a group of cars back in the midfield that haven't come in yet. So they're going to be running out of time on this, as we're going to see Dave Finch and Ryan Campbell drag racing off pit lane. It looks like Finch is going to have the advantage, and they're going to come out into a bunch of traffic in the form of Dave Moore, Luis Enriquez. So we got a big battle brewing here for the top 10 as the pit cycle gets underway. And it looks like Dave Moore is going to get both of those drivers. Luis is going to be mired back with them, and he's going to have to fight his way back up to Dave Moore if he wants to get there. But Dave Finch has gotten one spot away from him. And Ryan Campbell might have a spot there, but no, he's going to fall back into line behind Luis, and it's getting wild on these pit exits.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not what you want to see. Enriquez is having for Enriquez, I mean, he's not having a pretty scrappy race here for sure, getting caught up with I think what he would consider maybe a driver a bit slower than him. Definitely not, doesn't seem to be today though. This is a bit of a difficult track. Maybe he's struggling a bit with it, but yeah, he's definitely caught up here. When you pit like that, like I was saying, you're hoping to get free air, and it kind of looks like he just threw himself right back into the middle of it again. So not exactly what you want, but he'll be making some positions up here. It should be a pretty interesting race to watch here and see if he can make his way past Dave Finch, having some troubles into that corner there. But man, it's pretty interested at how things are packing up today, and the drivers that are racing with each other a little bit different than our usual packs of drivers together. So that's pretty interesting as a driver as well, to just be around people you aren't usually racing.
All but one of the top 8 have entered the pit lane. Evan Hubchak is going to take it for another lap, so he's going to probably lead a lap here. Yes, he will lead a lap, steal the bonus point for leading a lap, and try to pit next time by, as we're going to see who's going to win the drag race off pit road for the virtual lead of this race. It's going to be coming out side by side. Oh, they're going to be banging and bumping and grinding, but it looks like Belant is going to retain the lead away from Fabian Zweyer. Just barely. Those cars will not be clean. There are some scuff marks there on those fenders. Luke Sugengay going to roll out in third with Jeff Schnackle hot on his tail. And I say third place, virtually speaking. He, effectively speaking, once Evan Hubchak comes in the pit lane, we got a few more coming out, and it's being very, very busy on pit lane this time by. Only a few drivers left to come in and get service. Looking at the pit stop times, and it looks like Gabaldon might be still the one that with the fastest pit time with a 10:57. Nobody looks like they really short fueled a whole lot. Those leaders all came in. They were all over 11 seconds, except for Andrew Bailing with a 10:67. So it looks like everybody playing it pretty conservatively as we watch this drag race off pit lane. Fabian Zweyer had the better qualifying, so we had the further ahead pit stop, and I don't know if he thought he was clear or if there was more room there, but Belant definitely had the line and had definitely established position there, and he didn't really have anywhere else to go. Maybe just a bit of a miscommunication. As we watch Neil Kemp at the end of a disaster here, and looks like it was off the nose of Charlie Hosey. Andre's not going to be happy about that. The 100 possibly turning the 99. We're going to get another look at it as he's on the inside of Jay Bass as they make their way. This looks like it's possibly turn 5, 6, and that was turn 7. Yeah, here they are breaking into turn number 8, and Hosey goes for the inside, and he was kind of there, kind of not. I don't know how the steward's going to call that one exactly, but it was a kind of a late move. Turns Neil Kemp across his nose. 2 drivers going for the same piece of tarmac. I'm not sure who is entitled to it. As Evan Hubchak has entered the pit lane, he gets rolling once again with a 12:53 stop time. Definitely going to be giving up that lead. Back to Taylor Belant, who's going to continue. These two are just completely outclassing the rest of the field, and they know for sure now that they're not going to be racing with Kevin anymore because they don't see him anywhere around them after they've done their pit stops. Hubchak is going to rejoin, possibly in 5th place here. Dave Moore's going to be coming with a head of steam there as they approach turns 1, 2, and 3, but it looks like Hubchak will easily have the spot. He was one of the first cars behind Luis Enriquez when Luis came into the pit lane, so he was able to make hay while the sun was shining. Stayed out there for a long time, ran it a whole lap longer than just about everybody else as we see Levi Powell in the pit lane. He's on his way out of the pit lane, actually. He was stopped for 11.72 seconds, so he was another driver who was able to stretch it out for another lap, but everybody else kind of came in the lap previous. They are on a lap 17. This will definitely be a 21 lap race. So 5 laps, 4 to go next time by, and we really have a 2-pony race out front, and then a 2-pony race for 3rd, and then we have a gaggle of cars here fighting for 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some pretty strange gaggles of cars out there. We're just on board here with Ryan Campbell leading the Challenger class right now, just surrounded by pro class drivers. Charlie Hosey, you got to go back to 13th to find the next 2nd place Challenger driver there, and then Dan Ott right behind him, Mark Cohn right behind him, and then Matt Thompson. So that's where the race in Challenger is there. They're all nose to tail with each other, fairly close to each other as well. We'll have to jump back there and keep an eye on that one as well. Freddie Weaver down in 21st in the AM class as well. Pretty big gap between him and the 2nd place driver in AM as well. So as you were saying in the beginning there, Randall, there's a bit of a skill gap here at a track like Navarra, and I would imagine, again, it's a difficult track. It's kind of new, and you just don't maybe have as much time to practice on it, and it just promotes mistakes around here. This is definitely a track of errors for sure.
Yeah, and if you're like on one monitor or just don't take to hairpins really well, it could be another track that just catches you off. It might just not be a flavor that you like, that you just kind of spit out and survive the race and take your lumps and look to get on better the next week. As I think with what we see going on here with Luis Enriquez, as he's lost another position to Andrew Bailing and is having to fend off Ryan Campbell there. So the challenger leader up, fighting for a top 10 spot. He is in 10th right now. He's got Matt Malone, the full-time turkey. They're knocking on his back door. So still some stuff going on. I did see that incident between Neil Kemp and Charlie Hosey is being investigated. So I don't think this is the last we've heard of that incident, as we watch Matt Malone trying to work over the challenger leader right now. He's going to have the inside run. He's going to step out a little bit. That tricky curb is going to make the rear end step out, and maybe we'll get so close to contact here. Malone needs to leave a little bit of room for the Holy Spirit here. I think he forgets how netcode works sometimes, as he's going to be giving the business to Ryan Campbell. Now he's going to be looking to the inside, showing the nose. He's going to be enough alongside. He's going to be going nice and late on the brakes, but he's not going to have a very good run off, and that's going to give Campbell the preferred line as they make the charge up to turn 11. He's fighting pretty well, but it's going to ultimately be on the outside, and I think he's going to have his hands full with Campbell here as they continue on to turn 12. He's hanging tough pretty well there on the outside, and there goes Campbell. Unprovoked error for Ryan Campbell, and that is going to likely give up the Challenger Division lead for him even. So Charlie Hosey going to inherit the lead for the Challenger Division, but for how long? There could be a penalty coming Charlie Hosey's way, and this race could fall into Dan Ott's lap. He's got a huge lead in the Challenger Division points, and he might be being gifted yet another race win. We'll see what the steward decides for that incident. It's still being looked at, so giving it a good hard look, or as the English might say, a propaganda. And we'll see what he decides. But Dan Ott stands in a spot here where he could be inheriting a win that he had probably in no way expected.
Yeah, absolutely. That's those penalties again. Errors out there. The errors you make are definitely going to hurt your finishing result for sure. As we saw,
But Joshua, I hate to break in. What's this here? What's this here? Fabian Zweyer is now in the lead of this race. He's made his way around Taylor Blant. Maybe we can get the replay of that move punched up, but they're going to be fighting again. Looks like Blant showing the nose there on exit. Got a good run out of turn 8. Is he going to go for a move in turn 9? Doesn't look like it. They have Scott Brooks behind them. I wonder if lap traffic maybe played a role in this pass. Luke Sudengay still sitting about 6 seconds off this lead pair, but they have lost a little bit of time to Luke while they duked it out, and I really suspect that Scott Brooks may have had something to do with that. We're going to take a look at the replay now and see what went on between these two drivers. Nope, it doesn't look like Scott Brooks played a part here at all. They're going too wide into turn 1, and that is going to be the spot easily in the hands of Fabian Zweyer. And then later they had to deal with Scott Brooks, and I am now hearing over the race control radio that it looks like a drive-through penalty for Charlie Hosey for incident responsibility there, and that incident with Neil Kemp in turn 8 a few laps ago, which means, well, I did say it was Dan Ott that was going to inherit this win, but now Mark Cohn has gotten around Dan Ott. He is going to take over the lead of the Challenger Division now. Dan Ott right there, though, and Matt Thompson lurking in third. This could be the race to watch here for the rest of the race. The Challenger Division win is going to be decided here in the closing stages. Fabian Zweyer, Taylor Bland have checked out. We're going to kind of keep on this pair as Mark Cohn is going to go defensive here very early down the front straightaway. Dan Ott is going to follow him over there and use that slipstream. Is he going to get a last-minute move? No, he's going to bump him first, and then he's going to move to the outside. So maybe a little bit of a press R1 to intimidate here out of Dahano, too. We'll see if Mark Cohn can stand the pressure to make their way for turn 2. And now, Dan was looking for that vanishing gap there on the inside for turn 3. Thought better of it. Backed off. A little bit of panic break. We saw the front end of that car dip down real hard like that. He thought better of it, backed out, lived to fight another day. These two far from over here as they on lap 20 out of 21. The leaders will be taking the white flag the next time by. They are currently now navigating through turn number 10. So they are about 2/3 of the way through this penultimate lap as Taylor Bland's going to look to the inside here. An unorthodox move. I didn't expect the one to come from that far back. And they made their way to turn 11. I thought they were going to touch for sure in turn 12. Yikes. But he was easily clear. That the parallax on that camera was really deceiving. I thought for sure we were going to see another investigation going on from the steward. As Taylor Bland is going to give him the nose going out of the exit of turn 13. They're going to be coming into turn 15 for the second to last time. They're going to be seeing the white flag in the air. 2 drivers duking it out for the overall win here. Fabian Zweyer is going to lead the way to the white flag. Taylor Blant has led a good chunk of this race. Fabian Zweyer has also led a good chunk of this race. Who is going to lead it, though? The next time they come out of turn 15, we will know here in about a minute and 50 seconds, as Fabian Zweyer has a bit of a gap going into turn 1, but that's going to disappear very quickly as hard on the binders. Taylor Blant is going to be looking for anywhere, and there was an opening there on the inside of turn 3, but he was not quite close enough to go for it. He's going to really open up the entry here to turn number 4, try to get a good run here, try to make Fabian go defensive, but he's not close enough to force him into a defensive line, which could really put him off through turn 6. So they're going to be very, very tame as they make their way through turn 6. Blant just trying to get a good run off one of these corners. Hopefully, he's hoping to pressure Fabian into a mistake. So far, Fabian's looking pretty stout on the defense as they go into turn 8 for the final time, and a big slide there out of Taylor Blant is going to watch. He's going to watch Fabian get a little bit smaller in his windshield as they make their way down this little short straight. As you see Schnackel and Sudengate duking it out for 3rd place there in the background. We're going to keep our eyes on this lead race. Hopefully, we're going to watch Schnackel fight here with Sudengate. He's going to have the inside line into turn number 9, and these guys are probably going to go too wide all the way to turn 11 as Zweyer continues to mount a very strong defense. And oh, look now, they're coming up on some lap traffic. 2.5 seconds ahead is Jeff Andrus as Blant is going to run wide there on the exit of turn 12. They're making their way through turn 13. This lap traffic could play a role here. They're not closing very quickly, so the lap traffic might be far enough afield that it won't play a role. But right now, Zweyer looking good as he leads the way for the last time into turn number 15. Blant going to try to get a nice clean run off of this last corner to see if he can win a drag race here. He's going to run very wide all the way out to the gravel. That's not going to do it for him. Fabian Zweyer is going to come home and win this race after starting in P number 2. He is going to finish in P number 1, and then back. Luke Sudengate has gotten back in front of Jeff Schnackel. Sudengate is going to come home and finish in 3rd place over Jeff Schnackel. And then we look back, Heaven Hoopchak is going to finish in P5. Dave Moore in P6. Dave Finch P7. One. Let's get back to that challenger race. We got Mark Cohn is back in front of Dan Ott one more time. Mark Cohn is going to lead the way, and Mark Cohn will win this race in the challenger division as we see some celebratory crashing going on down the front straightaway. Some stricken cars. There is Luis Enriquez. I bet he feels like his car looks after this race. He really, really struggled with that car. Fabian Zweyer looks like he's maybe money shifted this at some point
the engine.
In celebration.
Yeah, the celebratory blown engine for sure. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a hard one, man. That's how I would feel out there right now, too. That's his mental state, I think. You'd be sweating in the chair after that one, for sure.
And Freddie Weaver finishes in 20th place overall. Wins the amateur division, and you have to look all the way back to 28th place before you find the next amateur division car. So this could be a huge swing of points for Freddie Weaver. So next week we'll get a good update on the point situation in the amateur division as we watch Levi Powell go for quite a ride across the curb there. These guys are very, very happy that this race is over, and they're celebrating appropriately.
Yeah, I think so. This is a pretty sweaty track. It's you got to be out there very mentally draining this track for sure. And we saw a lot of good driving, a lot of good passes, and some pretty class act driving out of the front drivers there as well. So, definitely big props to everybody in all classes here. This was a difficult race and made it look pretty cool here. See if we can't find where this smoke is coming from. I don't know if that's all from Fabian Zweyer's engine here. He's made it back to the pit somehow with no pistons left in the engine here, but he's going to get past here into the pit lane. But what a great race out of him for sure. Held up all of that stress from behind him and made the pass when it mattered. Another great race out of Fabian, making up for last weekend's kind of 0 to 0 moments there.
Absolutely. I mean, he was what did we call him last week? Houdini. He was Harry Houdini last week, and he manages to recover after that tragic end to Houdini's career there at Road Atlanta. I do want to shout out Jeff Bernard there in the YouTube chat, sitting on the beach in Waikiki enjoying the broadcast. Go Team Frito. Go Team Bernard. We miss you here, but we hope you are enjoying your vacation with your wife. What a race here we've had in Navarra. the leaders may have ran away with this, and we may have had a good three-way battle spoiled by a pit lane penalty. But those two were definitely going at it for the last 5 laps up front, and we saw a great battle develop in the Challenger division after a penalty given to Charlie Hosey after an incident with Neil Kemp. We're waiting for those official results to come in here as we watch Taylor Blant giving his all to try to get that spot for the win there in the last corner, running it really wide. Watching Mark Cohn there have a celebratory burnout at the runoff at what looks like turn number 8. So knocking all the good off of those tires and trying to blow that engine as well. But here are your official results. Fabian Zweyer wins by 1 second over Taylor Blant. Luke Sudengay manages to fend off Jeff Schnackle to finish 3rd. Schnackle's going to finish 4th. Evan Hubchak, who quietly had a very strong race, will finish in 5th place. Super Dave Moore finishes in 6th place. David Finch in 7th. Andrew Bailing finishes in 8th place. Luis Enriquez, who looked very strong at the start of the race, quickly faded back and finished in 9th place. Matt Malone, who did not have a good qualifying position to start this race, manages to drive his way up to round out the top 10.
Yeah, and then just behind that, pretty good result here for Jay Bast in the Pro Division, and then just behind him, winner of the Challenger Division, Mark Cohn. Dan Ott just behind him in 13th. In 14th, we have Matt Thompson, also in the Challenger Division, and Ryan Campbell rounding out the top 4 there in the Challenger Division. Just behind him in 16th is Neil Kemp. Chuck Labano in 17th. In 18th, Kevin Parrish, unfortunately finding that anvil going into the pit lane there, a mistake I'm sure he will be thinking about for a couple days after that one. I know I would and have in the past before. Those ones always sting a little bit. And just behind that in 19th, we have Freddie Weaver, the winner of the amateur class, and then Ed Sancinelli in 20th.
In 21st place, we have the likes of Brandon Smith, who we saw duking it out there with Luis Enriquez after Luis made his pit stop. 22nd, Levi Powell, who had an unfortunate incident early in the race and had a pretty decent recovery run. He was down in 36th spot after that spin, maybe 35th spot, drives it back up into P22. Matthew Gazinda, who had a quiet race, didn't really talk about him very much, saw him run wide a couple times, but very quiet, very productive race out of him. He's going to finish in 23rd. Daniel Gabaldon, who had the fastest pit stop time, is going to finish in 24th. Mike Neekum is going to finish in 25th. And take a quick second here to shout out the D-Nut Stuff Etsy shop. Go check it out. He always gives us some really good sponsorship for this for the American Muscle Series. Provides some awesome trophies to our drivers and sells some really cool stuff on his Etsy shop. Go check it out. D-Nut Stuff on Etsy. Dave Blair going to finish in 26th. He was hanging on for dear life there a couple times. We saw him. Brandon Carl, 2nd place in the amateur division. A whole bunch of cars between him and the winner, finishing in 27th. Charlie Hosey, who got a very late penalty there, is going to come home in 28th place. John Casey, very quiet race, very good race for John Casey. 29th position is where he's going to finish. Jay Little in 30th. Then rounding out the rest of the field, Tom Wint, who got a drive-through penalty for an incident with Mark Royce. Jeff Andrus in 32nd. 33rd, Scott Brooks. Aaron That Face Bray, who we saw get a meatball and had to retire the car and take some heavier repairs, ended up rejoining the race. He finishes 3 laps down. Mark Royce, who was also involved in an incident, finishes 13 laps down in 35th. Joe Sacchetti, who had a hardware failure at the very start of the race, comes home in 36th place. Kevin Buckholz did not start the race and is classified in 37th place. What a race, Josh. I bet Andre is going to be kicking himself when he watches this broadcast.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's some big boots to fill there, but I think he did okay out there, and we always miss Andre around here, and I'm sure he's going to wish he was here to watch that action today for sure, and Fabian Zweyer's rise back to herodom there. But I believe we do have some interviews here. Randall, who'd you like to talk to?
Yeah, I'm trying to ping Fabian Zweyer because we don't ever get to seem to talk to him when he wins races. He normally gets one win a season, and this is the first time that we've seen him actually like dominate win. Like, he's always had dominating speed, but he's never been able to put a full race together. And the few times that he has won, it seems to be capitalizing on other people's mistakes. This time it was pure pace and talent. So I'd like to talk to him, but doesn't look like he's going to join. So I'm going to jump to the Challenger division, where we have Mark Cohn, probably a little surprised that he finished here in the winner's circle for the Challenger division after Charlie Hosey got that penalty very late in the race, and he had to hold off the likes of Dehano too. Tell us what it was like out there for you today, Mark.
Oh my God. Last week, after spinning on my own not once, but twice, I was absolutely mortified and wanted to make up for it this week. The last time we raced here, I was holding on for dear life with the tires. This time I really wanted to fight, and we did, and I definitely made some mistakes. There was one off track where I definitely lost the position to Hosey and Ott, but I was just able somehow, some way to get past Dan, who had been beating me so bad this whole season. I just had to get him once, just once.
So whenever it came across the race control chat that Charlie Hosey was being investigated, were you pretty sure that he was going to be getting the penalty, or did you have no idea what was going on, or were you hopeful? What was going on there?
I didn't see the whole incident as it happened, but as I think any racer would be when you see the guy in front of you get penalized, even though Charlie's a great dude, I was just like, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Well, we were talking about when we seen it happen that he was probably going to get a penalty, and we were talking about how like Dan Ott's going to be handed another race win, and he's already running away with the points championship right now in Challenger. And then when Charlie Hosey pulls into the pit lane, lo and behold, it's not Dan Ott sitting in second place behind him, it's you. So we were rather surprised that you made the move at the absolute right time to get that lead away from Dan Ott, and then you guys were duking it out there for the last couple laps.
Yep, as I said before, he had just been so strong all season. The one time he left the door open and I felt like there was a clear gap, I went for it. There might have been a bit of contact, but I just really had to do it, and I'm so glad it worked out. That was such a tough race.
Well, I know you got a lot of people to thank, so before we let you go celebrate, we'll let you get to that. Who do you want to thank and shout out?
Oh gosh, first, Randall, everything you do for the league. I love racing in AMS so much. Josh, all you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting, these broadcasts are tremendous. Team Frito Sport, I wouldn't be here without them. They have helped me so much this season. Sim Gaming Expo, George and Zaldo. Yeah, for all of you that missed it earlier this month, it was one of the best things I've done in my life. It's going to be happening around September again next year in Schaumburg. If you're a simulation enthusiast of any sort of simulation gaming, be there. SimLab, I'm sure I'm missing a few. Nizumi Studios, Loud Pedal Motorsports, Yaza Sandwiches and more, Dwarves Candies and Fine Shoes, and Sim Racing Studio. And how about that? We won.
There you go. Well, congratulations on a win here in the Challenger division. And you got a few more shots here. Maybe we'll get to talk to you again before the end of the season.
Thank you. I was just hoping to get in victory lane once this season if I was so lucky. To get it twice is unbelievable. We're going to try for that championship, but those cats in front are so strong, man. We'll give it our best.
All right. Good luck to you. That was your Challenger division winner, Mark Cohn. And yabba dabba do, Joshua Wilkie, you get to talk to Mr. Freddie Weaver.
Nice, the amateur class winner, Freddie Weaver. Freddie, it was a bit of a difficult track out there today, and we looked like we had, a bit of a skill gap going on between some of the front and the back drivers in class there. Is this a track that you've been around a bunch of times, you've done a lot of practice at, or is this one kind of coming up to grab you?
This is a track I've raced before. It's a tough track. I mean, you lose your tires pretty fast if you run too hard. So I was just kind of going pacing it. I think I only passed 2 guys on the track that didn't wreck. It was pretty much just run my own race and take what I could get, and it was a win, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely saw a bit of a gap between, usually we'd probably see you around mid-pack-ish, and a lot of drivers racing around people they wouldn't usually drive around. This track's a pretty difficult one. Do you find this one pretty difficult and technical, or is this one one that you kind of have your hands around and stuff there?
This one's pretty technical. I mean, you got some hard turns, you got some long sweepers. You got that first right-hander. I mean, it's turn 1, 2, 3, you could call it. That's a pretty technical turn. You come in there too hot, you're gonna lose it. You come in there too slow, you're gonna get run over. I mean, this is one of the most tactical tracks I think I race. So.
Yeah, we were saying on the run up and during the race, that T1 complex there, you kind of treat it like one big corner, but you kind of have to take it in 3 bites, and it just, every lap seems a little different. I know when I've raced here, I'm thinking about that corner almost every lap throughout my lap, and then the rest of it is just a game of not making errors out there, is what we saw kind of happening out there too. The smooth, fast driver who looks the least dramatic seems to be moving the quickest. But good finish for you today there for sure. You keep your nose clean out there, have a clean car at the end, and took the win at AM. Is there anybody you'd like to thank out there?
Absolutely. Shout out to my wife. I mean, she puts up with it, like I always say. You've been down here practicing a lot. Shout out Frida Sport. Those guys are amazing. They help so much with setups and just getting out there racing with them. You know, a lot of them guys are faster than me, so racing with them makes me faster. Shout out you guys. I mean, Slow Motion Broadcasting, you guys do great every week. I try to leave likes and comments on your YouTube channel. And of course, Randall, it's sad to see him go, but I mean, he's started a great league here, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for the kind words there. We do see those comments, and we appreciate them a lot here at SMB. And yeah, there's only one Randall out there and one AMS for sure. And hopefully, we'll keep it going here at SMB and stuff. But it definitely won't be the same without Randall in the booth here for sure. But Freddie, that was a great race, and we'll see you next week at, well, who knows?
Hopefully, Watkins Glen.
Right on. We'll see you then, man.
All right, have a good one, guys. See ya.
And that was your amateur division winner, Freddie Flintstone Weaver, hoping for Watkins Glen next week. We'll see if the Wheel of Destiny is able to provide for him or not.
Yeah.
We'll see. He's trying to call his shot here, but I don't know if it's going to work out for him. Well, that was an exciting race. Great interview there out of Freddie Weaver. Great interview out of Mark Cohen. I did get an update from Fabian Swayer. You know, we tend to forget that Fabian is one of the few people in AMS that is not in America. He is a German driver, and he says that he needs to go to bed. He has to be at work in about 2 hours, so he's trying to get a couple more Z's in before he goes in. So he's racing very, very early in the morning. We saw the same thing out of Ironom back when he raced with us, so not completely foreign for the AMS drivers to have a guy that's a night owl racing with us that's over in Europe, and that is Fabian Swayer is one of those drivers, so we'll give him a pass on the interview. And Freddie doing my job for me, but I have not reminded anybody tonight. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you know every time Slow Motion Broadcasting goes live with more racing action, and there's plenty of it, isn't there, Josh?
Yeah, there absolutely is on our fancy new graphic here as well. So on Wednesday, October 1st, we have SRG F3s. I believe that's that's tomorrow. It's October 1st already. I'm actually going to be in that race at Interlagos, so you can watch me try to come to grips with an F3 car. And then on Saturday, October 4th, we have the Formula Vs every Saturday at 3:25 p.m. Eastern time. Be heading the Saxon Ring on that one. And then Sundays, our weekends are covered here with the Weekend Warriors. Sunday, October 5th, we do have the FF 1600s at Okayama, and then Spec Racer Fords just after that at Sakuba. And then same night, same day, three shows in one day. We have XSLR at Eldora. I believe that one's going to be wrapping up our ovals in the XSLR League. I may actually be in that race too, depending on how much energy and time I have. And then we're back at the American Muscle Series again on Tuesday. Not sure, maybe Watkins Glen if Freddie Weaver's a lucky guy. And then we're back to SRG F4s on Tuesday. And then our second round of Frock on Wednesday, our new series at Barber Motorsports Park. So really looking forward to that one. And we have a bunch of other stuff coming down the pipe here pretty soon too. We have a women's league coming in called Liberty Bells. We'll be doing some work with the Gnarl Sports Car League fairly soon on Thursday night. So stay tuned. All kinds of stuff coming.
It's an exciting time to be a part of Slow Motion Broadcasting. So like I said, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. You want to know every time that we're live. But basically, anytime that you want to watch racing, just cruise on over the channel. We're probably live. But for tonight here for the American Muscle Series, that is going to put a button on it. It has been Navarro. It was an exciting 40 minutes. We'll be back here again next week for who knows where. Maybe Watkins Glen if Freddie Weaver has his way. But my name is Randall McGrew. I've been joined in commentary and in the production holler by Joshua Wilkie. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.